President Muhammadu Buhari says the federal government would take stringent measures against conflict entrepreneurs disturbing the peace in Kaduna State.
Well, President Buhari stated this in Kaduna during a condolence visit to the once peaceful state that has now become a theater of killings. Recent outbreak of violence in Kasuwan, Magani and the state capital led to the loss of more than 70 lives and destruction of properties worth millions of naira.
Well, the president pledged commitment to compensating victims of the 2011 post-election violence amounting to more than 3 billion naira. We have a security expert, Kelechi Obiakwata, with us in the studio to look at this issue. Thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. Good. You?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So greetings away now. President Muhammadu Buhari, yes, in Kaduna, met with the governor, met with the leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders. Would you say those were the right people to meet, to nip this crisis in the bud?
Sure, to a very large extent. They are the stakeholders of the state, and therefore they should understand what is wrong with their state as far as security is concerned. If you go back to time past, the major constituents of communities are the community leaders, religious leaders, and maybe the village chairman, as the case may be. So nothing happens in such communities without those people knowing. In fact, they have background information of every event in the village. Sometimes they also have intelligence because they have meetings with other surrounding villages or communities to discuss issues that borders on their livelihood and security. So they are better people to know. But in the present situation of things, we could also kind of look beyond them because this is security situation. So the security experts of the government should do a kind of security analysis of the situation, the environment, the state, and be able to situate exactly what is the cause of the crisis. I believe the leaders that were invited could be source of mitigations instead of the threat themselves. So what the security experts of the government should do is to go in to find out what are really at stake. Because in every situation, you see, when they start, they kill people. People are the major assets of the state.
True.
They burn down their houses, their businesses. Those are assets. They destroy their means of livelihood. So the experts should be able to look at these threats, these assets, identify and characterize this asset vis-a-vis the adversary or the threat that face them, and go inner to find out what are these people using to do all these things. For instance, if it's arson, what is the cause of this arson? They should be able to find out this. After the analysis of the threats, of finding out what are these, after identifying the assets, they look at the threats. What are the threats to these assets?
All right. Now, before the colonial era, you remember very clearly that traditional institutions played very critical role in terms of, ensuring peace in different communities and all of that. What we are seeing at the moment, is there a sense in which we can say that in modern times, traditional institutions have failed in their responsibilities to ensure that there is peace within communities?
Well, it's neither here nor there because society have grown far away from what it used to be. In those days, you see, communities were contented. They had the economy doing very well. They are farming, they are trading and all that. They lived very comfortably. A village head could easily administer justice within his environment. But today, you see, the level of poverty, impoverishment, and external influences around, urbanization, globalization, as the case may be, has thwarted that original community setting that we used to know. And therefore, we need to move ahead. That's why I'm saying, in a situation like this, we should not depend on what used to be, because the dynamics have changed. And therefore, we should, situate the problem very properly. So that's why it's necessary.
But they can play. They can play.
Yeah, they
a role.
can still play a role. Yes. I said mitigations, because when you have done your analysis to find out what are the problems, then in the process of solving the problem, you can bring them. For instance, if you go to villages now, you know, the normal economy has disappeared. They are no longer farming. They are no longer trading. Some villages they're still doing some villages that are too close to the town have been urbanized, so their village has disappeared, so they behave like city people, okay? Moreover, people also migrate from one village to the other. You have all kinds of people. Then in those days too, you could have the security apparatus. The local police station will be in charge. They know everyone within and around that community. If anything goes wrong, they go and pick the hoodlums and deal with them. But today, we don't have such situations. Okay,
now, the Kaduna Crisis is quite historical. It's been happening for so many years. And those that live there, or those that have gone there, would tell you that some of the causes, you know, the nucleus of this problem are clear. But it seems that no one has the will, the government has no will to solve the problem. Because there are particular people that stay in a particular region of the state, and there are a set of people that stay in another region of the state.
It's stratified.
Exactly. And you can see it's so glaring when you go to these two regions in the south and the northern part of Kaduna. And we had an analyst say the same thing just yesterday. Yes. And in fact, when President Muhammadu Buhari met with some of these religious leaders, they harped on the same thing. And in fact, the official of JNI said there was need for the government to meet with religious leaders, both the Christianity religion and Islamic religion, for them to meet and talk, so that they do not, you know, incite their followers. Yeah,
that's very correct. Incidentally, I used to live in Kaduna, and one of the reasons I may not live there anytime is because of this riot. Because as a young man, I lived in Kaduna and I saw deaths, burning and accident and all that. And of course, it was a big regret that I found myself in that environment. So. Yes, it's always what we see as obvious symptom is religious, you know, situations where Islamic and Christian, you know, they clash and all that. But I think there are, you know, factors that are behind that. Most times they are political factors. You understand? They infringe or they infiltrate into the religious situation and use it because they know it's a flashpoint. It's something that actually will burn as soon as you touch it, so they use it a lot. But it's just a symptom. The real cause is beyond what you see as the outcome, you know, the fights that go on as religious, you know, situation. Yeah, there are fundamental issues beyond, you know, the outcomes that, you know, we observe. You know, if you go back to the Zango Katafe and all that happened in those days, you can situate it, okay? So it's very fundamental and it's solvable because if really the leadership want to solve this, and they would dig it, anything that is historic, there is information. So you go back and look at it and start working on it and see how peace could be done so that we can nip these things at the bud.
All right. I'm reminded of the words of John Mbiti, the philosopher of Kenyan origin, who once said that Africans are notoriously religious. And that also, in a sense, echoes the words of Karl Marx when he said religion is the opium of the masses of the people, of the mass of the people. Now, be that as it may, the president has said, look, all of those who are responsible for the crisis that we are seeing at the moment will be brought to book. Have we not heard these lines, you know, far too many times without, you know, really seeing the real action?
Yeah, that's the challenge, you know. When it comes to security, there are processes and procedures, okay? If those who are in charge, you know, the national security apparatus, that should have their various departments that, you know, conduct various activities like intelligence, you know, the DSS people, and of course, when you see military is just response. Shoot me, I shoot you, okay? That's about their job. Also, they have the intelligence unit that actually bring information for them to enable them do their plannings, you know, before they appear. So if the proper things are done, you will gather intelligence. And through the intelligence and the analysis that you do, you're able to identify the adversaries, those who
About 93 people got arrested, 43 have been prosecuted, investigation ongoing on the remaining 50. Is that not at least
fine? That's interesting. That's good.
Okay.
But those who are prosecuted, fine. What's the end result?
Okay.
At the end of the day, what is the end? Because you know what we see in Nigeria, you have 60 count charges against somebody, and at the end of the day, none will stand.
Stick.
So that's a challenge. It also touches on our legal system, as it were. So when all the government apparatus comes together, okay, the law enforcement or the security apparatus, the military, also the National Assembly, because some of these things, because of the changes we experience in laws, should also be coming up to be able to attach on these things so that we can have a control over it. Because if there's no control, because that's the problem in Nigeria today, there's no controls. You understand? People do anything and get away with it. That's the problem. Because of political, political arrangements. Because once somebody is involved and it has to do with a political region, political class or what this and that, you see that the system is shaken. Something will be done to to shortchange the system and all that. And these are the things that are building, the pain and building the crisis, the anger, fueling, and the tension and the violence that we're experiencing in this country. If things will be done in very clear terms, and people understand that we're following laid down rules and procedures, we're following our constitution, we're following our laws, that, like the president said, truly speaking, if he follows it, and investigators and everyone that are involved are fair and honest. Because another situation is, yes, we follow the law, but people are brought into that law who did not in any way infringe the law, and they are the ones that will bear the brunt of the law. That is not also right. You get the point.
Okay, we'll just support maybe a Truth and Reconciliation Commission be put in place. Like we said, this is not something that is just happening.
Yes.
It's been there for many years, for decades.
Yes.
So and you said, of course, the impunity is being encouraged somehow because it seems government is not doing enough, you know, to make the victims get closure by getting justice. So if that is put in place or something similar to it, to get people to talk about the problem, how they've been wronged, what can be done for them, you think that is to go a long way to solving and uniting Kaduna people?
It's very important.
Okay.
I quite agree with that. It's very important. But you see, they must come with open hearts, open mind, and clean hands. Yeah, because we know in South Africa what the Truth Commission did. At least we have enduring peace in South Africa till date, okay? So if this will be organized, it's fine. But let the people who are coming there come with sincerity of purpose and heart, because they could also come there and hide facts. Okay? When the facts are hidden, the result of that Truth Commission will not get us anywhere. So justice and equity must go together.
You talked about intelligence the other time, which is very, very germane or important, if you like, to preempting circumstances like this, so that before they take place, you are able to get them out and nip them in the bud. So we are also filling in that regard, aren't we?
Yeah, we are, because normally intelligence is regarded as men behind the battle line. They don't fight the battle, but they tell you how the battle will pan out. Okay. And
you remember, sorry to cut you. You remember on several occasions, we would get intel, even from the outside, telling us as Nigerians that, look,
what is going to happen?
What is going to happen? You know, what's their name? ISIS, and so are planning something, here and there. So we also need to improve in terms of intelligence gathering. Yeah,
that's why people are suspecting that security apparatus, national security apparatus, is in trouble. That it's not actually meeting its goals. That it's been infiltrated, that things are not really as healthy as it used to be. Because this country, when we're growing up, you hear, it used to be communal clashes in those days. Those were the greatest things that used to happen in this country. It was, today in quote, ordinary mopo that used to quell it. You know, one command of mopo would be dispatched, they'll go there and they will take care of things, and after some time, you know, the reconciliation will be done. But this time around, the mopo, the police, the military, the Air Force, where they have water, the Navy, everybody is out there. Yet, you know, the problem looks like there's no solution, which means there's some compromise, you know, that is going on, which has not been resolved.